Hello, guys, and welcome again to another episode of English with Jazz. Last time we discussed all about clauses and its types, which is really important for our next lesson for today. So, if you haven't seen that episode, please do watch it for better understanding of our new lesson. For today's discussion, we will be having the four types of sentence according to structure, which are simple, compound, complex, and compound complex. So if you want to learn more, just keep on watching. Let's now have our PowerPoint presentation. Let us now start with our lesson here at English with Jazz. For today's episode, we're going to talk about simple, compound, complex, compound complex sentences. To start with, let's review what is a sentence. A sentence is a group of words giving a complete thought. Also, it must contain a subject and a verb, although one may be implied. What is the subject and the predicate of a sentence? A subject is what the sentence is about or the topic of the sentence, and the predicate is what is said about the subject. Let us now have our example. The newscasters gathered information about the situation of the people around Taal volcano. In this sentence, our subject is the newscasters, and our complete predicate gathered information about the situation of the people around Taal volcano. So what are the types of sentence according to structure? The first type is what we call a simple sentence. A simple sentence is just one clause. They may have additional phrases, but it expresses a single complete thought that can stand on its own. For example, the baby cried for food. In this example, we have our subject, the baby, and our verb, cried. This example expresses only one idea, which makes it a simple sentence. Let's have the second example. Professor Maffle's intelligent students completed and turned in their homework. In this example, we have our subject, students. Although we have two verbs in this sentence, completed and the word turned, this is still considered as a simple sentence because it still expresses a single complete thought. How about a compound sentence? A compound sentence has two independent clauses. An independent clause is a part of a sentence that can stand alone, but it contains a subject and a verb and expresses a complete thought. So basically, a compound sentence contains two simple sentences joined together. These independent clauses are joined by a conjunction for and nor, but, or, yet, so. For example, I went home so I could get some sleep. In this example, we have two simple sentences or two independent clauses joined by our conjunction so. The first independent clause is I went home. The second independent clause is I could get some sleep. So what are these coordinating conjunctions again that joins our simple sentences to form compound sentence? So how can we easily identify a compound sentence? All you have to do is to look for a coordinating conjunction in a sentence. What are these coordinating conjunctions? We can remember them through the acronym FUN VOICE. For, and, nor, but, or, yet, and so. But remember, not all sentences with FUN VOICE can be considered a compound sentence. We still need to look for two independent clauses joined together by these coordinating conjunctions. Let us now have The next type, which we call complex sentence. A complex sentence is an independent clause joined by one or more dependent clauses. A dependent clause either lacks a subject or a verb, or has both a subject and a verb that does not express a complete thought. A complex sentence has a subordinator or a relative pronoun who, that, which. For example, unless you want trouble, you should stop. In this sentence, we have one independent clause and one dependent clause. And we have a subordinator, which is the word unless. Our dependent clause starts with our subordinator, unless you want trouble, and our independent clause is you should stop. Reminder, whenever you start your sentence with a dependent clause, always use a comma before the independent clause. Another example, after listening to Kanye West's CD, I have new respect for his music. So we have here one dependent and one independent clause joined by our subordinator after. So our dependent clause starts with the subordinator after listening to Kanye West's CD, and our independent clause is I have no respect for his music. So what are the subordinators? Here are some most common subordinators to use in writing complex sentences. After, although, as, because, before, even if, now that, once, since, that, though, unless, until, when, whenever, where, wherever, and while. Let us now proceed to compound complex sentences. A compound complex sentence has two independent clauses and at least one dependent clause. For example, because I paid attention, I got an A on the test and I was so happy. So let's identify now which is our independent clauses and our dependent clause. Because I paid attention is our dependent clause that starts with a subordinator because. Let's look for our two independent clauses joined by a conjunction. The first one, I got an A on the test. This is the first independent clause. Our second independent clause, I was so happy. Our two independent clauses were joined by our coordinating conjunction and. Let's have another example. I went home because it was getting late, but I had to wait on the porch until my mom got home anyway. In this example, once again, let's look for our two independent clauses and one dependent clause. I went home because it was getting late is our first independent clause. Our second independent clause is I had to wait on the porch. They were joined by our coordinating conjunction but. So our dependent clause is until my mom got home anyway, which starts with the subordinator until. Let's have now our quiz time. Let's try to answer and identify whether the sentences are simple, compound, complex, or compound complex. Let us start with number 1. While the music played, Rachel sneaked in through the side door. So, what is this sentence? Simple, compound, complex, or compound complex? The answer, this is an example of a complex sentence. So let's try to identify our identify now our independent and dependent clause. So here we have subordinator while which means our dependent clause is while the music played, and our independent clause, Rachel sneaked in through the side door, which makes this a complex sentence. Let us now proceed to our sentence number 2. This outstanding young player has a most unusual style. So what is this? Is this a simple, compound, complex, or compound, complex? Looking at the sentence, it contains only one idea with a subject and a predicate, which makes this an example of a simple sentence. Let us have number 3. Her peaches look odd, but fans aren't laughing. So what's this? Simple, compound, complex, or compound, complex? Let's look at our sentence. We have our coordinating conjunction, but. And let's see, we have two independent clauses. We have her peaches look odd and fans aren't laughing, which makes this an example of a compound sentence. Let's have sentence number 4. If you go to a game, you will agree. So this time, let's see what type of sentence is this. We have our subordinator if, which makes if you go to a game a dependent clause, and you will agree is our independent clause. So this one is an example of a complex sentence. Let's have number 5. After the teacher chose groups, John and Sarah were selected as partners for a project, yet Sarah did most of the work. So let's identify now what type of sentence is this. This example has one subordinate or one dependent clause, which is after the teacher chose groups, which starts with a subordinator after, and two independent clauses. We have John and Sarah were selected as partners for a project, and another independent clause, Sarah did most of the work, which were connected by the coordinating conjunction yet. So this sentence is an example of a compound complex. Let's have number 6. While waiting for the paint to dry, Angela went to Home Depot and Martin organized the kitchen appliances. So what type of sentence is this? Once again, looking at it, we have one dependent clause, which is while waiting for the paint to dry. Starts with subordinator while. And we have two independent clauses. Angela went to Home Depot, and another independent clause, Martin organized the kitchen appliances, which were joined by the coordinating conjunction and. So this sentence is an example of a compound complex. Let's have number 7. Trina and Harry went to a bar in Hollywood to celebrate their anniversary. So what type of sentence is this? We have a coordinating conjunction and in the sentence. However, this is not a compound sentence, but this is a simple sentence because it still contains one single thought with a compound subject. Let's have number 8. If I were a star, I would choose the nickname Magic. So in this example, we have our subordinating conjunction if, which makes if I were a star a dependent clause. And I would choose the nickname Magic is our independent clause. So one dependent and one independent clause makes this a complex sentence. Let's have number 9. Although he searched everywhere, Mr. Brooks could not find the keys to the computer lab. So let's try to look into the sentence. We have a subordinating conjunction although, which makes although he searched everywhere a dependent clause. While Mr. Brooks could not find the keys to the computer lab is one independent clause. So in this sentence, we have one dependent clause and one independent clause, which makes this a complex sentence. For our last number, number 5, candy rots your teeth and TV makes you lazy, but I still like them. In this example, we have two independent clauses joined by a coordinating conjunction but. So our first independent clause, candy rots your teeth and TV makes you lazy. The other independent clause is I still like them. So we have two independent clauses joined by a conjunction but, which makes this a compound sentence. So that's it for now. I hope that you learned something from our lesson, and thank you for watching.